Welcome back to the program. Let's go live to Graham Morris and Bruce Hawker. Gentlemen, we'll start with the climate issue. Have a listen to what Prince Charles said to the BBC about Prime Minister Morrison and whether he's going to the climate talks.
Scott Morrison, the Australian PM, isn't even certain that he could make it to the meeting in Glasgow?
Is that what he says, is he?
He did say, yeah. He said he's spent enough time in quarantine. I mean, what would you say to world leaders about why they should come to Glasgow?
Well, that's what I'm trying to say all the time. And the point being that this is a last chance saloon.
Graham, I think Prince Charles might be pleased that the PM looks like he will be going and looks like he will get the deal with the Nats, or at least most of them, Graham.
Look, I'm a bit of a fan of most of the royals, but I think Prince Charles and his mates and his family got a bit more to worry about whether that nice Scot from Australia is going to pop into Glasgow. Look, the Prime Minister has two things on his plate at the moment with this. One is to make sure that he talks to the troops and he gets a package that people think is realistic and acceptable. That's one. The other is, and remember, the last time he was out of the country and tried to have a holiday with his family, we had some bushfires. Now, imagine if COVID blows up. You know, it's all right for Mr Albanese, he doesn't care about small business or Australians in hospital, but the Prime Minister has to. So he's got to make sure that if he leaves the country, the system is okay to cope with another outbreak. Now, will he go to Glasgow? Well, he sort of seems to me to be getting closer, but he's got to fix those two things first.
Bruce Hawker, I think that Graham's right in terms of that he's getting closer. It looks like the deal is looming. I spoke to David Littleproud earlier in the program saying, and he said that the vast majority of his party room are being constructive. There will be a handful that don't ever support it. But in that context, I still think the government will want to leave some room to try and wedge Labor on this issue. Like, they won't be going so ambitious that they will lose that attack on Labor ahead of the election, Bruce.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure how big an attack it is actually on Labor if they do something like that. Frankly, it's not very impressive that the Prime Minister is still umming and ahhing, or is forced there by Prince Charles or somebody else. I mean, we all know, you know, Sky News knows, Murdoch knows, everybody knows that this is a huge issue facing the future of the planet. And as the Prince says, it's the last chance saloon. So why are we even talking about this as being something that's an achievement by the Prime Minister if he does manage to convince the National Party to let him go there and say something? I mean, that verges on pathetic as far as I'm concerned. As to whether this is going to be something which would wedge Labor, look, I think his biggest problem is in the inner city Liberal-held seats now, where a bevy of independents are lining up to take on what should be safe Liberal seats like Dave Sharma in Wentworth and elsewhere, and Frydenberg down in Kooyong. These are the sorts of things that the government really has to be worrying about. If I was a strong Prime Minister and wanted to impress the electorate, I think I'd turn around to the National Party and say, stick it in your pipe, fellas, and don't light it. Just watch me go to Glasgow and sit side by side with people like Boris Johnson, not a left-wing ranting lunatic by any stretch of the imagination, and come up with a policy that says we'll have net zero emissions by 2050 and perhaps something even better for the future of the world, for the future of our children and grandchildren. That is leadership.
Yeah, well, Graham, your response to that?
If the Prime Minister went to Glasgow, I don't think it would change one thing. This Prime Minister is not going to be told by some group of people hanging around Glasgow what he should be doing. If he goes, he'll go with his own package and he'll come back with exactly the same package. You're not going to be told by outsiders what we should do that's in our own interest. That's just bloody stupid.